Okay, so for this video, I'm outside the old historic train depot in Collierville, and they've turned it into a nice little guest area. And so we'll walk around a little bit here and hopefully be able to do our video on the Apostles' Creed. And we're on the line. He was born of the Virgin Mary and suffered under Pontius Pilate. And so Mary and Pontius Pilate are the only two humans besides Jesus that are mentioned in the Apostles' Creed. And I want to speak a little bit about both. Mary, I've often heard a lot of Protestants and evangelicals say that Catholics make too much of Mary. Maybe that's true. There may be some that are tempted to make her almost the fourth member of the Trinity. But if Catholics make too much of Mary, I think evangelicals and Protestants make too little of Mary. Mary is super important to our faith. She is the chief saint. She is, well, she's the first Christian. If we define a Christian as someone who invites Jesus into their life, well, there's no one who's ever done that in the same way that Mary has done that. Mary is also the one who gives God a human face. She is she's the means by which Jesus becomes man. She's the means by which eternal God steps into history. Pontius Pilate represents humankind as they reject God. He rejects Jesus in the ultimate way, sentences him to death, and thus is representative of what sinful humanity does when they encounter God. What both Pontius Pilate and Mary do collectively is they anchor the story of Jesus into history. Jesus is not a legend. He's not a myth. It's not a story that happened once upon a time, but it is a story that happens in a particular place at a particular time. It happens in the early 1st century AD, and it happens in Palestinian part of the world, and Jesus becomes a Jewish human being. Now, one of the interesting objections to Christianity is why the 1st century? Not some other time earlier or later. Why in that part of the world? Why not, why instead of becoming a Palestinian Jew, why did God not become a European or an African or an Asian? And the objection really has to do with what is called scandal particularity. And what I mean is this, is that in order for God to act in the finite world, he had to do something specific at some specific time. He had to act somewhere, in some way, in some context. God could have appeared to everyone, everywhere, all at once, but it would have been incomprehensible. It would have been, it would not have been a story in the way that we could have understood it. It would not have been something we could have participated in, and it would have been something that would have been outside of time and history. And we as finite human beings, we are not outside time and history. We're within it. And in order for God to do something that is going to include us and invite us into the story, it has to be done somewhere, at some time, at some particular point in history. And so God, the infinite, becomes finite, steps into human history so that he can begin redeeming human history from the inside out, and so that we can be part of that redemptive story. That's what makes Pontius Pilate and Mary so important. They anchor Christianity in history and keep it from being a myth or a legend or something that happened once upon a time.